Hello everyone, and welcome to another Unity tutorial. Sorry for not posting for 2 months. Been a little bit lazy, but anyways, welcome to another Unity tutorial. In this tutorial, I'm going to be teaching you how to make a basic 3D movement system. This video was suggested by Victor Pakala. Sorry if I butchered your name. I probably did, because I'm not the best in names. But thank you very much for suggesting this video, as now I am making it. So let's just get right into it. The first thing you want to do is inside your hierarchy panel, which in my case is in the bottom middle. You want to right click it, go to 3D object and click cube. This is going to be our ground. So I'm just going to reset the transform by right clicking on the transform component in the inspector. Right click it, click reset, and then I'm just going to make the scale about 25x, 25z. So now you can see in the scene view we have a nice flat ground for us to use, and I'm just gonna name this ground for now. Next thing you want to do is you want to right click, hit add capsule. This will be our player. Reset the transform, move it up a little bit, and what we're gonna do is we're just gonna name this player. Now under this player object, we are going to create a empty game object and name this camera holder. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to move it up a little bit like so that's not in the complete middle of the player object. The next thing you want to do is under the player, the actual player object named player, you want to add a character controller, if I can spell, like so. This will add a collider, or it will take care of physics calculations and movement calculations that we can then use in our movement script. So it's very, very useful. The next thing we want to do is we want to actually create our first script. And what the script is going to be is not shown in Explorer. Open out another monitor, sorry. Create C# script, movement script. Make sure to do that in the project panel. And then once you have that, you want to double click it. It will then open up Visual Studio. Wait for this thing to boot up. And we would just want to smite all that stuff out of existence. So the next thing you want to do is you want to do public float movement speed. Under that, you want to do public character controller, and I think those are all the two variables that we need for now. So the next thing you want to do is you want to do public void start, and what's going to be in here is it's going to do controller equals get component character controller. And then the next thing you want to do is you want to do public void update. And for now, just get the very basics. We are going to do float input x equals input dot get axis raw horizontal, and then float input y equals input dot get axis raw vertical. So under here, we're then going to do for now we can just do controller dot move new vector 3. You can do input x comma 0 comma input y, and outside the brackets for the vector 3 we're going to then do multiply by movement speed and then multiply by time dot delta time. Now I don't know if the character controller does time dot delta time on its own. We're going to find out in a few seconds. Actually, at the top of your script, with the public float movement speed, we're just going to initialize that as 1. So we're going to go back into Unity. Sorry if I'm talking too fast. If I've talked too fast, I'll try talking slower in this video. I have a lot of energy, but feel free to slow down this video, go back, pause it, whatever you need to do, just to make sure you copy down the code exactly like it is, so it works first time. I know very, very recurrent stuff works first time, but I just want to make it as seamless and smooth as possible. So we'll have no camera. We will have no camera control for now. But if we go into our game, we can see that our character is not moving. And you know why that is? Because I did not add the script to the player. Alright, so next thing you want to do is you want to go to your project panel. You want to drag the script onto your player object, like so that it then shows up right here under your player object. My mistake. Let's see if it works. So you can see that there's no camera movement right now, but you can see that our player is moving using WASD just fine. You can see the gravity's not working, but we can implement that later. So, the next thing we want to do is go into our script again. And what we want to do is we want to add our gravity. So under the public movement speed, we're going to do public float gravity factor. And then under that, we're going to do public float current vel y. And that will keep track of our gravity. So for right now, we're just going to, every update, we're going to do current velocity equals -9, or how about just negative gravity factor. And for right now, that's going to be just equals -9.81. That's just standard gravity. And then we're going to initialize this as 0. So make sure you have the public float gravity factor equals -9.81 f, and then under that you want to do public float current vel y, and then inside your update function do current vel y equals negative gravity factor, and then inside of your controller.move make sure you add this in this 0 for the y, you want to do current vel y. So next thing you should see is, oops, you do not want to, okay, so that's a mistake. You can see we have -9.81, and you can see negative gravity factor. What this is doing is it's multiplying a negative by a negative. So what this is actually doing is going to make us go up. So what we want to do is we want to move the negative sign on our current vel equals gravity factor. So just make sure it looks exactly like this. Current vel y equals gravity factor without a negative sign. That's my mistake. But now you should see that our character is staying grounded on the floor. We can still move. And if I move it up, you can see that it will drop down with gravity, which is very, very, very cool. So next thing we want to do is we want to add jumping. So how we're going to do that, I'm just going to go out of play mode. We're going to go under our player object. We're going to add a new empty game object, and we're going to name it ground detection. Now we're going to move this empty game object all the way down so that the little point of all three arrows coming into contact is at the very bottom of the player. That's pretty much as close as we can get. And steam ground detection, what we want to do next is we want to go under our ground, and we want to change its layer. So the way we do that is we click on the game object, we then click into the inspector panel. We then go to this layer. It's under the name field. We go to layer, we're going to add a layer, and we're just going to do it under user layer 8. We're going to do ground layer. So next thing you want to do is you want to go back to ground, the ground object, click on it, go to the layer, and go to ground layer. So after that, we want to go into our movement script here, and we want to add a few new variables. So I'm just going to do it under the character controller variable. I'm going to do public layer mask, ground mask, and then I'm going to do public transform, ground detection transform. The next thing I want to do is public bool is grounded. So with this, we want to go into Unity, let recompile, go to our player object, and we want to assign these new variables. So you can see that ground mask, we're going to set the ground mask to ground layer, ground detection transform, open up your player object in hierarchy, click and drag your ground detection onto the field of ground detection transform. Now that that's assigned, we are all good to go. Next thing we want to do is we want to check if our player presses the spacebar. So, actually no, we want to check if we're grounded first. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new function that we can call outside of our update function, and it's going to be public check is grounded. And we need to add a void. Sorry about that. Void. I want to just line these all up. There we go. So public void check is grounded. So what we want to do is we want to do collider with square brackets. This turns it into an array named calls. And then we want to do equals physics.overlap sphere. And then inside these brackets, we want to do ground detection or ground detection transform dot position. And then comma 0.05f comma ground mask. And then what we want to do is if calls dot length is greater than 0, then we want to set is grounded equal to true. However, if it is false, just going to do by else, If it is not greater than 0, we're going to do is grounded equals false, like so. So now that we have that, in our update function, under our float input x and float input y, we're going to do check is grounded, like so. Just call that function. And now what we can do is, just for testing purpose, we can do debug.log is grounded, and this should return true when we're on the ground and false when we are not. So we're going to do play. Now it is returning false. Let's just see why that is. Ground layer. I think I have found the problem. It is because you can see our player is hovering above the ground. And I bet if I drag this down, yep, you can see it is now returning true now that we dragged the game object onto the ground. So what we need to do is, that's actually a quirk of the character controller. We need to change the height of our player to about, I would say, 1.95, 1.9, about 8.5. So I think 1.8 will be good. So go to play mode, change your character, or change the height variable under the character controller to 1.8. That will let it drop down on the floor, you can see. And now our variable is returning true. So now we can detect if our player is on the ground or not, which is pretty cool, and also very useful for checking if you can jump. And also if I drag this up, you can see that it is now returning false. But then when our player falls back onto the ground, it returns true. So we know that system is working completely fine. Alright, go out of play mode, and we're going to go back into our script and add the jumping functionality. So what we're going to do is we're going to do if input dot get key down is I think it's just space is the key code for it. Sorry about that. My voice was dying, I think. But we're going to do if input dot get key down space and is grounded is true. Then what we're going to put is current val y equals for right now I'm just going to do 18. So what we can then do is delete our current val y equals gravity factor, and what we're going to do instead is if is grounded is equal to false, we're going to do current val y plus equals gravity factor times time dot delta time. But if grounded is true, so else is grounded is equal to true, we don't want to keep adding gravity every frame because we are on the ground. We are going to accelerate none. Why is this bugging out? Oh, sorry, because we can do else if is grounded is equal to true. What we want to do is, because we're already grounded, we don't want to keep adding gravity because then we will just be pushed farther and farther into the ground and it will be hard to move because of friction. So if we are grounded, we just want to set current val y equals, I'm just going to say -2 because that's a nice number. And instead of this current val y equals 18, we're going to scroll up to the top of our script, and we're going to add a public float jump power. And I'm just going to do it, let's just do 10f. And instead of doing this current val y equals 18f for the if input space function, we're just going to do jump power. Make sure to put it on the same line, just so it doesn't look absolutely terrible. And we're going to go into Unity, let recompile, check if the script has all the variables it needs. It looks like it does. Looks all good in there. We can just go play. So you can see I press spacebar. Let me see why this isn't working. So you can see that our function is running because we do debug.log yes, which means that that is not our problem. Our problem is probably that we are not changing the isGrounded variable to false. So what we can do is actually we can do all the adding of the velocity before we check the jump function, and then just delete that. So what we're going to do is we're going to check the velocity for the isGrounded stuff before we do the jump. And what that should do is it should allow us to jump. And as you can see, it does. And as you can see, the gravity is actually also working because we jump really high, but then the gravity will slowly accelerate us back down. And then you can also see that under our player, our velocity is not going absolutely insane. You can see that the current velocity y is sticking at -2, but then when we press jump, you can see that it slowly goes down from +10 all the way down to -9. So that is working perfectly fine. We now have a jump function. Now then, that is the movement complete, but we still have to have the camera for full 3D movement. So what we need to do is we need to add a new script and name it camera movement. And then what we're going to do is we're going to open this script up as well. And we're going to add 2 variables for the very start. Public transform player body, if I can spell, and then public transform camera, camera holder. So we also want to add a public float sense, and then we're going to do public void update. So we want to first what we want to do is we want to get our inputs for our x and our y axis. So what we want to do is we want to do float input x equals input dot get axis raw. We want to do mouse. I don't know if there's a space or not. I think there's no space, but I'm not completely for certain on that. We will see in a few seconds. Get axis raw, and then we want to do mouse y. So we're actually going to go check that really quick. We're going to go to our player object, and we are just going to go and close all these because you don't need to see it. Keep on the movement script. We're going to add our camera movement object as well onto here. And just for now, we don't need to set any of those variables. I'm just seeing if the... Okay, so I think there is a space between the mouse and X. So just add a space right here, so it looks exactly like this. This is just testing purposes. Not important for now. And you can see that, yeah, okay, we're fine. So now that we have the input axes, because you got to pronounce it right, axes, we want to make sure that our mouse Y does not go between 90 and -90, so we can't look completely upside down and do like 180 flips with our camera. Unless you want to do that. I personally don't want to do that, but maybe you do. So what we're going to do is we're going to do public float current Y. And what we want to do is this current Y is going to be initialized as public void start. We're going to initialize it as 0, so that it's completely locked completely straight. And then what we're going to do is we're going to first debug.log input y, so we can just see what our y-axis of the mouse is doing. So you can see that the Unity console is saying that as I move my mouse down and up, you can see it flip-flopping. So this is up, you can see it's positive, and now I'm going to move down, you can see it's negative. So it's working completely fine. So next thing we want to do is we want to do current y minus equals, minus equals input y. And then right below this, we want to do mathf, or current y equals mathf dot clamp. And we want to do current y for the value, and we want to do a minimum of -90 and a maximum of 90. This will lock the current y variable between -90 and 90. And just in case our thing ever goes above these two values, we are going to do if current y is less than -90, we're going to do current y equals -90, or negative 89.9, and then we're going to do also else if current y is greater than 90, we're going to lock it to current y equals 89.9. This may be redundant, but this is just in case the clamp fails, because sometimes it does. I've had that happen. I have no idea why. Maybe it's because of the value I'm using, but sometimes this may not work. This is just making sure it is clamped and whatnot. So the next thing we want to do is we want to actually set the camera's rotation. So what I'm going to do is our setup is going to use the body rotation of the player as the horizontal movement, and then the camera holder is for the vertical motion, which is on the x-axis. That's for the vertical motion that we're going to be using. So what we want to do is we want to do player body, player body dot rotation. I don't know if you can do plus equals here. Let me see something. So I'm going to do. No, I just remembered that there's a actual function of player body dot rotate that you can just. I think you just plug in a vector 3 for Euler angles. We want to just do new vector 3. We're going to do 0, comma input x times time dot delta time, of course, because you're doing an update, and then we're just going to multiply it by sensitivity. So that should be the player body rotating, and then what we want to do is we want to do camera holder dot rotation equals new vector 3. Now it's on the x, so we just want to do current y comma 0 comma 0. Whoops, I need to do quaternion dot Euler angles. Then we want to just do new vector 3. Want to do current y comma 0 comma 0, and that should let us set our camera holder dot rotation. So next thing you want to do is you want to set those two variables inside your camera controller. So go into the inspector panel, do player body, drag in the player, and then camera holder. Want to just drag in the camera holder like that. So the camera will not be moving at the moment because we don't have it parented to anything. But as you can see, I don't know if the player's rotation is moving. It does not appear to be so. Let's just... Oh, because my sensitivity is 0. That's exactly why. So make sure you set your sensitivity to more than 0. Just going to set it for 1 for now. That may be a little bit slow. As you can see, our player is also... Oh, it is rotating. I just don't think you can see it because of the... I don't think you can see it because of the very small amounts of movement. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bump up the sensitivity to like 15, so that we get a lot more movement. And you can see that now we actually have a moving player. You can see that on the scene view. If I just set the sensitivity to 100, you can see that now our character is actually rotating, which is very cool. And then if we go into camera holder, you can see that the rotation is actually changing in respect to that. And then you can see that the rotation of the camera holder is actually being set to the Y is being reset. And that's because it wants to be locked straight. But what we can actually do is we can just say that current rotation equals 0. Yes, that should fix it. We need to do local rotation. So instead of camera holder dot rotation, we do camera holder dot local rotation, and that should fix that problem. So now we can see that now it will rotate just fine. And then the last step we need to do is we want to parent our camera to our camera holder, and we just want to reset its transform. Now you can see that our camera is facing forward, and you can see that now we have a look camera. Now you can see that even if we're pressing W, our character does not follow our camera. And what we can do instead, in movement script, we can do input X. Actually, our movement is going to be a vector 3. Local to this function, it's going to be vector 3 movement. I'm going to set it to new vector 3. And then movement is going to be equal to input X times transform dot right plus ver plus input y times transform dot forward. And then instead of doing this new vector 3 stuff, we just want to do just movement, and that should work. I do remember that that breaks gravity, so what we actually need to do is it's going to then do controller dot move current vel y times time dot delta time. Again, forgot to set the vector 3, 0 comma current vel y times time dot delta time, comma 0. That should fix it. I need to add another bracket. That should fix the gravity problem about gravity not being applied to our character. You can see that it works just fine. We can jump, look around. You can see that our camera is locked at the 90-degree points. It's working all good and dandy. And I think that is the end of this video, guys. Let me just see if there's a better way of doing this. Let's just see if we can add a little bit to the movement. So then we're going to do movement. Oh, no, because it won't. Because we're going to multiply it by movement speed in here. So the only way that I know for right now is putting the gravity in a separate move function. So this is the controller.move. This will do the 3 movement in the 2 planes, and then this will do control the gravity, which is the jumping and actual gravity application. But overall, sorry for the very long-winded video. I know some of you may not have wanted to sit through this, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Link in the description for the GitHub project if you want to just download this real quick. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, I guess, as desperate as that sounds. But I'll see you guys in the next video, which will probably be another video on the tower defense tutorial. Maybe not. But I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.